Good evening and welcome. Tonight we're going to begin our read through of this really cool magazine, The Atlas of Sacred Places. And tonight we are going to start off with Chapter 1, Africa. So let's just dive right in. That's a really great photo. We'll start off just reading all the little articles and then we'll go back through the chapter and look at all the maps. So we are starting off in Tanzania at Tanzania's Sacred Mountains. With a name meaning Mountain of God, Old Dogon is a pilgrimage destination for Maasai pastoralists from Tanzania and Kenya. The Maasai hold that they are the chosen people, gifted with cattle by their god Engai, the supreme creator. They come to this volcanic peak to offer sacrifices of sheep, and through elders to ask that Engai bless them with the most important things in their world: rain, children, and cattle. They also come to placate the god's displeasure, which they believe to be conveyed by thunder or drought. Rising 7,650 feet above the East African Rift Valley, Old Dogon is notable for its unusual nitrocarbonatite low-temperature lava flows, rich in carbon dioxide and quick to harden into a consistency that fragments like glass. Carbonatites are some of Earth's best sources of rare earth elements, essential for making electronic devices. Unlike hot silicate lavas that burn bright red, its cooler lava is jet black, although at night the flow has a dull reddish glow. Surprisingly, when the dark lava hardens, it turns starkly white. You can see some of it down here. The black flow, and then some dried lava over there. That's really cool. Old Dogon is the world's only active volcano with such lava. It has probably erupted for 150 centuries. This unique lava flow has special significance in the religious cosmology of the Maasai, where the color black is especially holy, white signifies peace and contentment, and red represents power, expressed through both vital life and angry destruction. And on to one of the more famous mountains of Africa, the seat of God. Mount Kilimanjaro is the highest freestanding mountain in the world, meaning it is not part of a range of peaks. At 19,340 feet, its summit, Uhuru Peak, is the tallest in Africa and the only mountain on the continent permanently crowned with snow. It has held many roles: a guidepost and navigational tool, a rallying point for independence from colonial powers, and a popular destination for spiritual quests. Many living in northern Tanzania consider it a sacred place, and some believe its summit is the seat of God. In the traditional cosmology of the indigenous Chaga, who live on its slopes, the universe is divided into two realms, the spiritual and the secular. The two are constantly interacting, with their revered ancestors lying in between. All of nature, the mountain included, is a result of both natural and supernatural powers. Although the Chaga have been exposed to other religions, these widened their understanding of the spiritual realm without diminishing their indigenous faith. Today, most Chaga are Christian, but in the Chaga faith, Kibo, Kilimanjaro's highest peak, is thought to be the embodiment of the divine. Chiefs were called Kibo. The side of the village facing Kibo was considered the honored side, and people used the name Kibo to wish one another long life. Even today, Chagas sleep with their head toward Kilimanjaro, place buildings on the part of their land closest to it, and spit toward the mountain before leaving on a journey for good luck. And next we have one of my favorite sites in Africa. In Sudan, it's the Nubian pyramids of Meroë. Some 200 Nubian pyramids grace the necropolis near Meroë, capital and royal burial ground of the ancient kingdom of Kush, in what is now Sudan. There are more pyramids at this site than in all of Egypt. Built between 250 BCE and 350 CE and arranged in three groups, these distinctive, narrow-based, and steep-sided weathered structures are all that remain of the burial chambers of generations of kings and queens who populated this region along the Nile River. The ancient culture of Nubia served as Egypt's 25th dynasty in the late period. Following their fall from power, the Nubian pharaohs moved south and established a thriving Kush empire. By around 800 BCE, they had incorporated parts of Egyptian culture and religion in a prosperous land far from the throes of Egypt's many foreign invasions and internecine struggles. As with the Egyptians, the afterlife was central to Kushite religious life, and they revived the custom of erecting pyramids within which to bury their dead. To guide the deceased to the afterlife, burial chambers in the pyramids were decorated with images of the gods. Among them were Khonsu, the moon god, who traveled across the sky, Thoth with his ibis head, the record keeper of death, and the healing goddess Isis. The Kushite pantheon of gods came to include non-Egyptian deities as well, to offer protection against intruders. Here we go. 1,000-year empire. The northern burial ground, which holds the best preserved of the pointed pyramids, is the final resting place for 30 kings, 8 queens, and 3 princes. Most of the Meroë pyramids have an imposing, colonnaded entrance, with frescoes and hieroglyphs etched into the vast stone blocks of the burial chambers, half hidden under a gritty golden veil. Although they are not yet fully understood, the frescoes tell stories of gods and other immortal beings, and of the monarch buried within each tomb. Most pyramids also include a chapel attached to one side, within which has usually been found a statue of the Ba, an aspect of the human soul believed to give the deceased their individuality, depicted as a figure with the body of a bird and the head of a human. Inside the huge stone-walled enclosure of the city itself are the remains of a royal palace, several small temples, and a nymphaeum, or Roman bath. Archaeological findings of sculptures, ceramics, jewelry, and ritual objects suggest a highly artistic society, and ancient Greek and Roman histories tell us that the social customs of the Kushites were very much like those of the Egyptians. However, until scholars can decipher Meroitic, their unique hieroglyphic language, many specifics of Kushite life will remain a mystery. The Kushite Empire thrived for 1,000 years, with the destruction of Meroë by invaders from Aksum around the year 330, marking the end of the kingdom. Within a few centuries, a region that had worshipped Kushite gods converted to Christianity. And like I said, we'll look at the map after. We are heading off to one of the more famous tombs in Africa. In Egypt, we're at the Valley of the Kings. This is King Tut down here. I hope that like a mummified corpse isn't too disturbing, but he's right here. My apologies. Knowing that the monumental pyramids of older generations attracted tomb robbers, the pharaohs of the New Kingdom determined that their burial places should be secret, hidden beneath tons of soil and scree on the edge of the desert. Foremost among these covert necropolises was the Valley of the Kings, at the base of a pyramid-shaped peak that was regarded as a personification of the cobra goddess Meroë, also known as Guardian of the Dead. The tombs were cut into rock on the west bank of the Nile directly across the river from Thebes, an area now known as Luxor. Many of the ancient world's most formidable rulers, including Ramses the Great and Thutmose III, were buried beneath the valley in elaborate underground chambers. Funerary rituals involved sophisticated mummification to preserve the body for the deceased's eternal soul to inhabit again. Within the 63 tombs currently known here, not all those buried were pharaohs. They are thought to be accompanied by their queens and family members. Despite best-laid plans, robbers plundered most of the royal tombs, perhaps not long after the original funerals. The Egyptian way of death. Belief in an afterlife and the complex rituals that promoted the soul's rebirth bound Egyptians together, whether or not they departed this world in style. People had faith that life would go on after death. Pharaohs were thought to become one with their gods. The development of hieroglyphic writing meant this communal doctrine could be shared more widely. Texts and illustrations decorating tombs reminded the dead what they would need to know to travel safely through the underworld. By the time of the New Kingdom dynasties, these texts incorporated writing from Old and Middle Kingdom funerary works, collectively known as the Book of the Dead. The content, which would vary, was considered both magical and religious, filled with spells, stories, and advice. The corridors and halls of the tomb of Ramses III, for example, bear painted scenes from both the Book of the Dead and the Litany of Ra. The subjects depicted are as varied as the pharaoh's armory, boats on the Nile, and 2 blind harpists. Up a narrow ravine, one of the valley's most secluded tombs, that of Seti I, also has elaborate decoration. Its artists tinted some of the walls yellow to imitate papyrus and covered the ceilings in yellow stars set against a deep blue night sky. In the tomb of Thutmose III, the vestibule bears images of 741 ancient divinities, while the oval burial chamber resembles a huge scroll imprinted with portions of the Amduat, an ancient funerary text. Until the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb, Seti I was the valley's prized draw, the longest, deepest, and most richly adorned tomb of the entire necropolis. The paint seems as fresh as the day it was applied. A gateway to the afterlife. The sheer size and vast numbers of treasures that have been unearthed in the Theban necropolis make it one of the world's most culturally significant archaeological sites. Ancient Egyptians were buried with everything considered necessary for the reanimated soul to use in the afterlife. In some cases, including food, clothing, and furniture. They were also entombed with mystical statuettes called shabti, small figurines believed to spring to life in the ancient Egyptian underworld to labor for Osiris, the god of the dead, in place of the deceased. In 1922, when Howard Carter and Lord Carnarvon discovered the boy king Tutankhamun's tomb in the Valley of the Kings, they became the first humans to enter it in more than 30 centuries. Unlike those of other pharaohs, King Tutankhamun's tomb was mostly intact. It still contains the pharaoh's mummy on display in a climate-controlled glass case inside an anteroom. This is the coolest map, and we'll look at it later. Next, we're heading to Mali to see the land of the Dogons. There's the cool Dogon houses up here that they'll talk about. The 289 villages on and around Mali's steep Bandiagara cliffs are scattered over nearly 1,000,000 acres in an area known as the Land of the Dogons. Human settlement in the region dates to Paleolithic times, and Dogon cultural and animist religious traditions remain among the best preserved in sub-Saharan Africa. Dogon predecessors, known as the Telim, lived in the Bandiagara between the 11th and 15th centuries. Some Telim villages still exist. The Dogon migrated to the Bandiagara around the 14th century and are believed to have gradually intermarried with the Telim. The Bandiagara sandstone plateau and steep cliffs still feature the Dogons' stunning architecture, including religious sanctuaries called Binu, altars, large windowless family homes called China, and communal meeting places and shelters called Toguna. Many are capped with conical roofs of straw, a shape with cosmic symbolism for the Dogon. The Dogon have an elaborate cosmology and practice ancestor worship, burying their dead in cliff necropolises, along with grave goods. Some public performances, as well as Dhamma ceremonies, more private burial rituals, feature masked dance ceremonies with long carved face coverings and elaborate costuming to help guide the souls of the departed to the afterlife. The Amina masks used in the Dhamma are regarded as imbued with power that can be used for good or ill. Revered creatures in Dogon rites include two tricksters, the pale fox and the jackal, and the benevolent crocodile. Next, we're heading to South Africa. I believe it's pronounced the Fifidi Waterfall. Really, really pretty. Fifidi Waterfall. Within the foothills of the Soutpansberg, called the Zwyni in the Tswana language, South Africa's northernmost mountain range lies the Venda Territory. Here, the graceful Fifidi waterfall is regarded as Swifto, a sacred place to the Ramunangi clan, who are considered its traditional custodians. They practice ancestral worship here as they have for many generations. Gifts are proffered to powerful water spirits they believe live in the river, waterfalls, and lake, as well as the surrounding Tate Fondo forest, which legend holds is protected by a sacred white lion. To maintain good relations with the ancestors, the Ramanangi provide them with offerings such as grain and beer, along with their prayers for good harvests, health, and rain. For the spirits of the Fifidi waterfall, ritual offerings are often made at specific locations, such as at the pool below the waterfall, called Kuvu, that's it. Kuvu. Let me try one more time. Kuvu. We've got it. Sorry, whenever I see a word I'm not sure how to pronounce, I say it like 20 times to myself just to learn it. So even after I've got it, I repeat Kuvu. And before it was destroyed during road construction in 2007, a sacred rock above the falls known as Lanwa Zongolo. In addition, clan elders use the falls to communicate with their departed, as they believe the ancestral spirits reside in these waters. The entire area is considered holy and, as such, imbued with supernatural power. Incursion by tourism and other outside forces is being fought by the traditional protectors of the land. Next, we're heading north to Tunisia to see the great Mosque of Kairouan. In the holy city of Kairouan, the great mosque rises around the world's oldest surviving minaret, which has stood since about the year 730, soon after the Islamic conquest of the Maghreb. Started in 670, only 38 years after the death of the Prophet Muhammad, and rebuilt and enlarged the next century. The present structure dates to the reign of the Aghlabid dynasty in the 9th century. With its buttressed walls and three-tiered minaret festooned with battlements and arrow slits, the mosque was both fortress and spiritual center. Imams preached, men studied, and in time of siege the populace took refuge here. The vast enclosure could shelter thousands. Underground cisterns provided water. At the center of the mosque lies a dazzling courtyard, all gleaming white marble and enclosed on three sides by cloisters and columns. Exquisite marquetry covers the doors leading to the prayer room. Beyond is the mimbar, or imam's pulpit, thought to be the oldest surviving in the Islamic world. The mihrab, a niche pointing in the direction of Mecca, covered in mosaic tiles and massive chandeliers. Only Muslim men may enter the prayer hall, but a glimpse through the doors reveals naves, bays, and another 414 columns. A popular saying is that if you cannot go to Mecca, 7 pilgrimages to Kairouan might save your soul. There's a cool photo of the courtyard here from like the shadows. So like not the best picture, but still a cool photograph, right? It's pretty neat. And yes, this will be the last article for the night. In Ethiopia, we're going to the beautiful rock-hewn churches of Lalibela. You can see here. Super cool. Let's read about that. Ethiopia, where Christianity was introduced in the 4th century, holds a surprising pilgrimage destination high in the mountains. 11 churches hewn top down and inside out from solid rock. Generations of priests, resplendent in their robes and with ornamental crosses in hand, have tended the churches. Deep corridors and staircases carved downward into the cliffs link these isolated churches in a layout reminiscent of the holy city of Jerusalem. Legend has it that their builder some 800 years ago was a pious king, Lalibela, who was commanded by God to create a place of pilgrimage, a new Jerusalem more accessible to followers of the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, which was established before European colonization of Africa. Recent research suggests the history of the churches is much older, stretching back to the 7th century. The most intriguing of the main churches, carved from one solid rock of volcanic tuff, has the shape of a giant Coptic cross set 36 feet deep, with its roof at ground level. Inside the candlelit interior are columns and grottos richly decorated with Christian images, including the churches and Ethiopia's patron, Saint George, slaying a dragon. For nearly 1,000 years, crowds of the faithful have arrived at Lalibela from all over to chant and sway in time to traditional music, particularly at Orthodox Christmas, which is January 7th in the Western calendar, Easter, and above all, Timket, or Epiphany, celebrating Jesus' baptism in the Jordan River. All right, let's look back at these maps real quick before we go. First, here's a map of the Kingdom of Kush. You can see the Nile River going through here, all the way up. There's Thebes. And you can see the modern boundaries here as well. There's Sudan and all that. So let's see. We have this was the area of Egyptian dominance, I think. That's pretty cool. There's Meroë. And let's see, there's Barkal up here where there's lots of other tombs. This says Napata. I'm gonna come a little closer. I'm gonna like lean into the map because this writing is very small. Napata, early Kushite capital and religious center at the base of Jebel Barkal, late 7th century BCE. Very cool. The Kushite heartland you can see here. And all the other little red dots you can see were archaeological sites before 3000 BCE. Let's see, and then the bright red dots you can see there are from 3000 BCE to 1400 CE. Pretty neat. Up there's Memphis, the Kushite capital of Egypt, when the Kushites ruled Egypt. And let's check out this awesome map here of the Valley of the Kings, the East Valley. So let's see. We're going to look at these tombs. This is KV62, which must be King Tut's tomb, right? Let's see if it says here. Yes, Tutankhamun. It says KV39 question mark. Could be Amenhotep the first. Can we find 39? There's 37, 33, 31, 32, 30, 37. We'll find it in a bit. 37. I'm sure you guys are all seeing it. 37. Not sure where it is. KV 20 and 38 is Tutmos the first. Not sure how you can have two tombs. KV 20. Yeah, let's see if we can find. There's KV 34. You can see here that one is Tutmos the third. You can see how it went deep into the rocks here. It had its own little tomb there in the back. This one, KV 20, is Queen Hatshepsut, who her son tried to erase from history. So you can see her tomb goes way long out here to the mountains. Who else do we have? Amenhotep is way over there. It's not on the map. Amenhotep the third is out of the area. KV 55 question mark might be Akhenaten, who was kind of a wild character. Let's see, 55. There's 58, 57. I'm sure that they numbered these in order of discovery, right? 55. This huge complex area here, my goodness. No wonder they're not certain. That's a massive burial chamber, isn't it? Alright. It's pretty neat. Some of these are very long. Look at this one. It goes all the way down that way. This one comes all the way down here and meets up with this one. My neighbor stomping above my head. This one's pretty cool too. There's like an antechamber and a main chamber. Pretty neat. So I'm pretty sure that Tut's tomb is just here. It's just underground because he died unexpectedly and there wasn't any tomb prepared for him. So they just kind of like dug and made a little narrow entryway into his tomb. And it was covered up so well because it wasn't in the rocks. So tomb raiders never really found it. So interesting. But that's going to be it for tonight, I think. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you found this video relaxing and educational, and I hope that you have a very good